early in the morning on the 31st of December. I know that because it has taken me 5 tries just to say that. It's fairly early in the morning on the 31st of January. No, it's pretty early in the morning. It's pretty early in the morning on the coffee on my chin on the 21st. It's pretty early in the morning on the 31st of January. Oh. My name is Jenna, and this is the second half of my December reading wrap-up. I am going to endeavor to say, hi, my name is Jenna, at the beginning of all of my videos next year. That is something that must change. But I have 8 books to quickly talk through with you that I read in the second half of the month. I'm not going to talk about them in the order that I read them because, to be quite honest, they are no longer stacked in the order that I read them. So the first one that I want to talk about is this one, which I listened to on audio while painting a paint-by-number winter scene. Actually, I'll take the book image down and put the winter scene image up because it was super fun. A really, really fun little activity to do over my Christmas break. I don't know why, but I love paint by numbers. I mean, I guess a lot of people do. They exist. So I guess it's not that weird, but I do love paint by numbers. And this was really fun. It was not difficult. All the spaces to paint were quite large and like separate from each other, so it wasn't detail work. And I listened to this whole book while doing probably about 2/3 of this painting and absolutely loved both the book and the painting experience. I'm super shocked that I loved this book. This is Kiss Me at Christmas by, I cannot remember her name right now, but the book is sitting right in front of you, so you can read her name. I have read 2 other Christmassy, wintry books by this author and didn't like either of them and had actually decided I was not going to read anything else by her in the future. But the premise of this one got me, as so very often happens. But I was good. I didn't buy it. I put it on hold at the library and waited for it to come in. And when it came in, I was like, okay, I want to do this painting. I am in between books. I'll just give this 10 minutes and decide I don't like it and return it and move on. And I listened to the whole thing because I loved it. It is about a woman who is a recent empty nester. Her daughter is in college and she's gone on a study abroad exchange program. So her daughter is in the States over Christmas and it's her first Christmas without her. She is feeling lonely, so she goes to a bar, and it does start with a one-night stand. If that is something you are opposed to reading about, then just know that's there, but it's not that big of a deal. It's actually very important to the story because it sets up the whole relationship thing. And it sets up quite a lot of the humor as well. She has a one-night stand. It's a lovely evening. They really click. When she wakes up and he's in the shower and she doesn't know what to do because this is not her normal thing and it's not her normal lifestyle, and she sneaks out. And she's kind of like a caseworker, I guess, or like a counselor, more than a counselor in the school system. She was an English teacher, but she became like this carer person. We don't have an equivalent in the States, I would say, like a caseworker. She gets to school that morning after that wild night and gets to school in the morning and realizes that a couple of her students are skipping school again. And her boss is getting on her about this because it's kind of their last chance and she needs to do something. She has an idea of where they might be. So she's looking around for them actually on the streets, like she leaves school to go hunt them down on the streets to try and find them as they skip school, and sees one of them slip into an abandoned theater. She follows this person into the abandoned theater, finds the kids in this place, and they have this really great conversation about Dickens, really, really rich conversation about Charles Dickens right in the middle of this book. Or the beginning of this book. They get caught. She takes the blame for all of them because she knows that for some of them, if they get in trouble with the police, this is their last, like, opportunity to do that. And so she takes the fall. She says that she had them all meet there to talk about English, to talk about their individual, like, graduation culminating projects, and she gets arrested. The woman who owns the theater is like an old Scrooge type character. And she believes that although this woman probably did not do any of this damage or make this place dirty, and even though she's going to sell the theater in a short amount of time, she wants this woman to pay for her infringement. And so she makes her do community service by cleaning the entire theater. Fun thing here is that, you may have guessed, the old lady's lawyer is the one night stand that she snuck out on. And she goes back to school the next day. She gets the kids who were there, who she took the fall for, to agree to help her clean this whole place up. It's going to turn into such a beautiful found family, such a like ripple effect on the community, such a joyous, joyous book. This book has everything you want in a Christmas rom-com. And it's not cheesy. It's so wonderful. I love this book. And so, of course, I have to now buy this book. I know that I'll reread this. I'll probably reread this every year. Loved it. Okay. So now on to the physical books that I read in no particular order. The most recent one that I finished reading was What the River Knows. And this is by Isabel Ibanez. And it does end on a cliffhanger, as I heard. I think this book is super overhyped. I was not that oohed and awed by this book, but I am committed. I own the second book. I am committed to continuing to read this duology because it is the book that I have chosen to buddy read with Book Mama and her group and her reading challenge. So I suppose I could make a change, but I own it, so I might as well just read it. And it is a cliffhanger. I do want to know what happens. It is twisty and turny, but I didn't care about any of these characters. And so when the sands start to shift and betrayals start to happen and things like that, I know where I was supposed to go, oh, but all I did was go, So yeah, this is not the next duology, YA duology of Shining Glory that I was hoping it would be. It's okay. It's okay. It's not great. I don't understand why people are so enamored with it. It's not bad, but it's not great. There's something distancing about the way that Ibanez writes. So that's fine. I read at some point this one. This is Marcia Willett's A Week in Winter. This was my first Marcia Willett. It won't be my last Marcia Willett, but she is not a substitute for Rosamund Pilcher, which is not her fault. So the whole time I was reading it, I had to keep telling myself, she's not Rosamund Pilcher, and that's not a fault. This, in and of itself, is a fine, fine book. I love her writing. I do. I love her writing. The story itself is, well, it's a soap opera. Like, it is the kind of book that you would read in the 1980s or 1990s, the kind of romance you would read in the 1980s or 1990s. I'm thinking like Evergreen. I can't remember who Evergreen is by, but it reminded me a lot of that. Or A Woman of Substance. It's kind of like that kind of book, which is by Barbara Taylor Bradford. It's kind of like that kind of a book. It is got a lot of characters. They're all intertwined. There's a big sadness. There's something that holds them all together. In this case, it's this house. Something that many want, but only one can have. It's not an inheritance grab or anything like that. So that's a nice change. Most of the characters are very wonderfully sweet and kind. There's a lot of sleeping around in this. Like there's not sleeping around. There's a lot of infidelity in this book. A lot of the relationships are formed because of these relationships, these secondary relationships. I can't say that it was heartwarming or feel good, and I know it's supposed to be. those things, but it did not warm my heart. It entertained me. It kept me going. Like it compelled me, and it has really beautiful writing. The story itself was not my fave. Not my fave at all. I think because I had been dissatisfied with that, I picked up another book about a house, which is Rose Cottage by Mary Stewart. This was a complete impulse read, and I listened to this, even though I own it and I have read it physically. I love this copy, but I listened to this as a re-listen while I painted the other part, like the rest of my my winter scene. And this was a great revisit. It's not wintry at all, but it is a mystery about identity and a house, very much like this is a mystery about identity and a house. And I didn't put the two and two together until now, but I felt a longing to read this when I finished that. And I think that's why. It's very, very short. You can listen to it on double speed very comfortably in about 4 hours. And no, I didn't do it in one go. Although I did do that Christmas book in one go. My second set of Advent short stories, like I call them Advent short stories. They have nothing to do with the real meaning of Advent, but like I read during December one short story that is wintry or Christmassy related per day, because it's really the only time I feel like reading short stories. And I really only feel like reading short stories about Christmassy, wintry things. If I try to read short stories in any other way, unless I'm teaching that short story, I really don't get that much out of them. But I do love reading one a day for Christmas. And so this was my second batch. I picked this one up to read the 12 stories that are in here. This was my first Val McDermid. These were all kind of mysterious, not gothic, not creepy in any way, not all murdery, but mostly murder mysteries. I love this cover so much. I really do. And I would read more Val McDermid. I think I'd like to read something longer if they have something longer. Oh, I just love this cover so much. This was a fun experience, and I did look forward to each story. I just don't feel like short stories are as impactful to me as they are to some other people, but I enjoyed it. One Christmas Morning by Rachel Greenlaw. I did not like this. This is basically a retelling of A Christmas Carol. Like, what isn't a retelling of A Christmas Carol? But this is really a retelling of A Christmas Carol. It's about a woman who, and also Groundhog Day. It's about a woman who keeps reliving the same day over and over again, but she does it in different people's bodies. So she sees their perspective. She's herself when she's in their body, but she sees what's going on in their life because she was not aware of what was going on in their life when she was in her own body. And then she starts to put pieces together and starts to realize ways that she needs to make changes if she doesn't want certain outcomes to happen. It was a little bit cold, a little bit meh, like a little bit fussy. I don't know how to explain it. It didn't feel warm and cozy and inviting, but it was okay. It was just okay. I would not probably read anything else by that author. I read Enchantment, Awakening Wonder in an Anxious Age by Catherine May, and I did take almost the entire month to read this, and I did do that on purpose. I really like Catherine May's writing. I like how she talks about, she does this weird thing where she focuses in on one concept, but she talks about it in a really broad way, and she brings her own life stories into it. It feels chatty. It feels like having, you know, like a coffee shop conversation with somebody, and I really like it. For me, it's about pacing with her. If I read it very slowly, if I read one chapter every few days, then it retains its gloriousness. If I try to plow through, I get bored. And I think that Enchantment itself, the topic of this book, kind of confirms for me what I know about me and how I find enchantment. I'm really excited to be reading in January a book called Awe, which is the science of enchantment. And I have a couple of other books on my scheduled TBRs throughout the year, which will also focus on this kind of idea. And so I'm excited to pull all of those thoughts together. And then the last one I have to talk about is Camila by Madeleine L'Engle. This was technically a reread, but I remembered next to nothing about this as it unfolded and was totally shocked as it unfolded because it is such a dark book. Now, I've read most, including this, of what Madeleine L'Engle has written, including her adult novels, and one that's kind of on the cusp of adult novel, but not quite adult novel, called A Small Rain, which is excellent. Probably one of my top 15 Madeleine L'Engle books. I really, 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 really love what she does. And I know, having read so much of her, that she kind of revisits the same themes and the same characters over and over again in different ways, which most authors do. In here, having just read the Austen series so recently, last year, I really feel like in the Austen series, she creates a gentler form in Zach. She creates a gentler form of, what's his name, Ted? Frank, not Ted. I am finishing watching How I Met Your Mother, so that's probably where Ted came from. But Frank. And Frank is really, 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 really harsh in this. He's a harsh character. This is the story of a 15-year-old girl. I almost said 16. She's not. She's definitely 15. She's a 15-year-old girl growing up in New York in the years right after World War II. This was first published in 1951. It was republished in the 1960s and again in the 90s. Camila is growing up she's the only child in a couple, basically. They are kind of selfish people. They are not necessarily parents. They love her, but they have their own individual lives. Mom is having an affair because she can't get the amount of expressive love from husband that she wants. Dad has had his own weirdnesses, and he has told Mom from the beginning that he is not demonstrative. He doesn't show love that way, and yet he does to other people. How the two ended up, you get a little glimpse into that, but you don't get a lot of glimpse into that. But these are just two incompatible people who love each other in an unhealthy way, who have had a child. And they are raising this child in the best way that they know. And the child is wonderful and great. And a lot of what they are doing to raise her is to make her this independent young woman. She wants to be an astronomer. She knows herself. She feels confident in herself until she finds out that her mom is having an affair. And there is trigger warning for an attempted suicide. Her mother does attempt suicide. Her best friend, her parents are getting into the psychology of things. Mom is a art gallery. I think she's either an art reviewer or an art gallery owner. And Dad writes. He's a reporter, kind of. And they're both really into psychology and psychoanalysis. They have two children, Camilla's friend and Camilla's friend's brother, Frank. They call Frank and what's the friend's name? I really have been watching too much How I Met Your Mother because I want to say Lily. Louisa, not too far from right. Louisa and Frank call their parents by their first names at their parents' insistence. And Mom has an alcohol problem, and Dad, they always fight, so Dad is never there. They live in a very small apartment. The parents sleep on 2 pull-out couches in the living room, and the kids each have their own bedroom. And going there is always uncomfortable because Mom is always drunk, and when she's drunk, she says things that are maybe true, but mean. They kind of form this bond over their brokenness. Frank takes Camila to meet a veteran. Now you read this, and if you are not aware of when this book is taking place, you're going to think this is a Vietnam vet. It's not. It's a World War II vet. He's lost his legs, and he's incredibly bitter and very messed up. There is a scene where he does kind of try to groom her a little bit, trigger warning. This is Madeline L'Engle, so nothing happens, but it's there. Like, you can read it on the page. It's just about the dangers and the tragedies and the darkness, and how Camila kind of buoys herself through it all, faces it head on. It lets it smack her down, but she gets back up, which just immediately made me think of, I get knocked down, but I get up again. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. This is a really heavy book. It's a really heavy book. I think that it's probably listed as a YA, but I would say that this is an adult book. There is not a lot of resolution. It ends on quite a heartbreaking moment. Camila is okay. She's okay, but she suffers a great loss. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's a completely surprise thing for all of us, for Camila and for the reader. And it ends there. There is a sequel. The sequel, though, takes place and is written about 40 years later, 30 years later. It takes place about 20 years later into the future. You better believe that I just added that to my TBR. I have read it before, but again, I don't remember. So that tells me probably it is quite dark as well, because I didn't go, oh, this is a Madeline L'Engle. Like, for many years, I had a very, like, this is what Madeline L'Engle should be. She's a fully faceted human being with many different kinds of emotions and experiences and ideas. So I should let her write what she wants to write. I really need to read A Live Coal in the Sea, which is the sequel, which I will be doing. Today is the last day of 2024. I always feel like there should be like some kind of ritual that happens on the last day of a year as you move into the first day of the year. And I've done different things on different years. Lots of times I've been with friends and had some kind of celebration. It's not really my thing. Like, I'm making a concession for my friends when I do that. I really, I don't like to be up late, really, unless I am doing my own thing. If I'm creating something, if I'm writing or I'm painting or even playing Sims, I can stay up all night long. If I'm with people, I have like maybe a 5-hour window of expressibility. And then I need to stop. Massive introvert over here. I have done that. I've done the party thing. I am not doing the partying thing this year. I've also done the make vision boards thing. I'm not making vision boards this year. I have done the games nights. Those are super fun, and I actually really love games nights. I'll play games all night long, but I'm not doing that this year either. This year, I am going to read. As soon as I turn this off, I'm going to read. I'm gonna have a little mini readathon. I'm gonna see how much I can read of my January TBR, because it is quite huge. I'm gonna see how much I can read of my January TBR, and in between those things, I'm gonna watch movies that I love that make me feel really happy and entertained. So on the docket, I don't know everything I'm gonna watch, but I'm definitely going to watch Eurovision. Have you seen this movie? I love this movie. I don't know. I don't know why. It's so stupid, and I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorite movies. So I'm definitely gonna watch Eurovision. I haven't watched it in 2024, I don't think. Maybe I did. Now that I say that, I think maybe I did, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay if I watch it every day. I don't care. I don't watch it every day, but it's okay. So I'm gonna watch Eurovision. And I also want to watch this Disney movie. Have you ever seen this one? Ice Princess? Yeah, it's terrible as well, and I also love it. I also have just so many great snacky things, and I'm just gonna chill. I'm just gonna chill. I want to have fun and explore. Those are my 2 words for 2025, fun and explore. But this is still 2024. So I'm gonna take my last Uber hibernation day and just hole up in my apartment with Lola and watch some fun movies, eat some fun food, and read, which for me is super fun. and I will see you all next year. Goodbye to 2024. Hello 2025. Let's go read.